Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Hey, question for you. Who's got 2 thumbs and wants to read some Q posts? You guessed it, this guy. Keep in mind, I always read through these once, so if you want to skip through to the analysis, just click on the timestamp below and a wormhole will open up. 2 men will escort you into it and you will be shuttled into the future with no recollection of what has ever happened to you. Let's move on. 1053, we get this. D-class, LP, viva le résistance. Viva versus viva. JC in brackets. Why classified by Intel.com at highest level? Define title. Define role with Mueller. Exchange Shelter's very senior member Q. 54 minutes past the hour of 11. We have this reference to a May 14th Q post that had a bunch of different article links. Coordinated all for a LARP. Attacks will only intensify. Ask yourself why. Q says sample. Why so much attention? Then we have a couple links here to Vice and Daily Beast. Q says conspiracy. 14 minutes after the hour of 12, responding to some Anons. Let's say, I like that. JC with extra P in twat equals JPC in brackets. And Q says, what a coincidence. Q. 18 minutes after the hour of 12. Adding on to that, Q says, what is this? Would she know? And we have a Twitter link. Q. 48 minutes after the hour of 2. Q says text A, text B, text C. Text B missing and takes 4 attempts to recover due to glitch. Text B supplied in IG report. How can you obtain text A and C, but somehow the most incriminating, text B, is lost due to a glitch, recovered later only after classified intel methods applied? This is the level of corruption we are dealing with. The American people are not stupid. Q. 301, we get this picture right here. iPhone tweets. Q says, what a wonderful day. 53 minutes after the hour of 7. An Anon who says, come on Q, who is it? This is the owl photo all over again. A lot happened today and Anons are focusing on a damn blurry photo of some old man. Ended already. Q says 45. 16 minutes after the hour of 9, we get another picture. iPhone, Twitter, White House. 20 minutes after the hour of 9. Responding to an Anon, says Donald J. Trump, verified account at Real Donald Trump, following at Real Donald Trump more. Earlier today at Flotus, Melania and I were honored to welcome King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia of Spain into the White House. 17 seconds, 7:17 p.m. Q says, what a coincidence. Twitter shot in the Oval, and next, a tweet. Q. 25 minutes after the hour of 9. Responding to this, what a coincidence. Twitter shot in the Oval, and next to a tweet, adding on 1 minute delta. Conspiracy, Q, and the 1 is in brackets. 10:01 a.m. Responding to an Anon who posts this picture, where we go all on the back of a soldier's helmet. I'd go there even if I had to leave early and walk my ass there. LOL. Q says, thank you for your service. God bless and stay safe. Q. Before we begin on the Q post, I would like to invite you to have a piece of cake. After all, it's my birthday. That's right, June 20th is my birthday. And, you know, around here, anything is an excuse to have cake. So grab yourself some cake, grab yourself some coffee, and let's get on these Q posts. By the way, that's not my real cake. I stole it from the internet. The one that I wanted had the name Bryson on it. I don't know who Bryson is. Okay, let's start you back at the beginning. 10:53. We get this here. D-class. LP being Lisa Page. Viva le résistance. And Q says viva versus viva. And then we have this JC. Okay, well, my French is pretty terrible, but I do know that it would be V-I-V-A, vive la résistance being feminine. So the E and the A are mixed up, and of course Q points that out. Now I'm not really sure if there's another reason for pointing out the A and the E, if there's some sort of code that I'm missing with that. Let me know what you guys think, but of course it's not really French. Whoever was speaking it clearly does not speak French, and I think that might be the point that Q might have been making. But there might be something else in with the A and the E that I'm at least missing as of now. But let's get to this JC. And if you followed my previous videos, I was thinking that this was referring to the opening of James Comey's investigation. It turns out that I am wrong, and we're going to find out in a couple Q posts here, but I want to get you started on this now. Q is actually referring to John P. Carlin, and let's go ahead and talk about this person here. This is John P. Carlin, former Assistant Attorney General for the U.S. Department of Justice, National Security Division, chairs Morrison and Foerster's Global Risk and Crisis Management Team, and advises industry-leading organizations in sensitive cyber and other national security matters, white-collar investigations, and government enforcement actions. Mr. Carlin has served as a top-level official in both Republican and Democratic administrations, most recently as Assistant Attorney General for National Security, the DOJ's highest-ranking national security lawyer. In this capacity, for which Mr. Carlin was nominated by the President and overwhelmingly confirmed by the Senate on a bipartisan basis, he oversaw nearly 400 employees responsible for protecting the nation against terrorism, espionage, and cyber and other national security threats. Under his leadership, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to highlight some of the things that he's done. He investigated the attack on Sony's entertainment computer systems, oversaw the efforts of the National Security Cyber Specialist Network and the National Security Anti-Terrorism Advisory Council program. Okay, so sounds like a pretty important guy. He also prosecuted the Boston Marathon bombing cases. Prior to assuming his role in the NSD, Mr. Carlin served as Chief of Staff and Senior Counsel to Robert S. Mueller III, former Director of the FBI, where he helped lead the FBI's evolution to meet growing and changing national security threats, including cyber threats. Mr. Carlin also held positions as National Coordinator of the DOJ's Computer Hacking and Intellectual Property Program, and Assistant United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, where he prosecuted cyber fraud and public corruption matters, among others, trying more than 40 cases to verdict. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about this guy, but clearly, top-level official, had worked for Robert Mueller, very interesting, prosecuted cyber fraud and public corruption matters, so he would know a little something about that. And he was also the national coordinator of the DOJ's computer hacking. And if you watched my video the other day, we were talking about that missing IP that was in those. This was maybe last week, and I'm wondering if we were referring to this intellectual property program. And anyway, so this guy is clearly wrapped up deep state. But let's talk a little bit more about him. This is off the New York Times. Back in July 2016, Loretta Lynch to accept FBI recommendations in Clinton email inquiry. Attorney General Loretta E. Lynch, conceding that her airport meeting with former President Bill Clinton this week had cast a shadow over the federal investigation of Hillary Clinton's personal emails account, said Friday that she would accept whatever recommendations career prosecutors and the FBI director made about whether to bring charges in the case. Okay, and so this was before it became a matter, but I want to show you this right here. Two other political appointees will review the findings of the email investigation before a final decision is made. John P. Carlin, the Assistant Attorney General for National Security, and Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates. But both have also pledged to follow the recommendations of the career prosecutors and the FBI. So this John P. Carlin got to review the findings of the email investigations. How about that? This was in July 2016. In September of 2016, we get this. This is off of UPI. Head of Justice Department's National Security Division to resign next month. One of the United States' top national security officials has decided to step down from his post next month and go into the private sector, the Justice Department said Tuesday. John P. Carlin, the head of the department's National Security Division, will resign effective October 16th. Carlin, 43, oversaw numerous prosecutions involving matters of national security, including that of 2013 Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. He also presided over espionage charges against Chinese military hackers. Now, Q tells us back on May 4th in post 1316 that John Carlin was indeed fired. But we just read that he had stepped down back in September. His official date was going to be October. And then in November, we get these texts between FBI Attorney 1 and FBI Attorney 2. Attorney 1 says, is it making you rethink your commitment to the Trump administration? And of course, they're talking about the money that's getting pumped into all this. And Attorney 2 responds, hell no, viva la resistance. Now, Q is telling us that that was Lisa Page. That's what it looks like to me, saying viva la resistance. Sounds like her French isn't any better than mine. And maybe Q is simply saying that to just let us know that it's not a French person. And then we've got this John Carlin, senior member. John Carlin. Why classified by Intelcom at highest level? Because it's going to expose high-level people like John Carlin. Remember, head of DOJ's National Security Division. Defined title? Just did. Defined role with Mueller? Chief of Staff, Senior Counsel to Robert S. Mueller, former director of the FBI. Remember, security threats, cyber threats. That was Carlin. That was this guy right here. Exchange Shelter's very senior member. So now we're getting more insight as to why they don't want to let us know who some of these attorneys are. But it turns out that it looks like it's that one of them is John P. Carlin. And I want to give you a little bit more insight on this, if I may. This was a radio interview off of WMAL. And this is Joe DiGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney General for Washington. And he's talking about the DOJ, National Security Division head, John Carlin, and his role in the 2016 FISA warrant. Let's give it a listen.
That is correct. And you, here's another interesting note that you will find nowhere in the New York Times and the Washington Post. The head of the National Security Division in the Department of Justice at the time was a gentleman by the name of John Carlin. John Carlin resigned on October the 16th, 3 weeks before the election. Nobody in a senior Justice Department post resigns 3 weeks before an election when you think Hillary Clinton's going to win. Why did John Carlin, the head of the National Security Division under Loretta Lynch, resign on October the 16th? What would lead a senior Justice Department official to do that? And the answer is quite simple. It's all about the dossier. When the history of this period is written, the dossier will have been the undoing of every major FBI and DOJ official because senior Justice Department officials engaged in a fraud on the FISA court. And that will lead to criminal charges being placed against many of them.
Okay, well, we're not exactly sure Carlin's role in these texts, but that could be the senior member at the highest level that these exchanges are sheltering. Could be Comey as well, too. But we do know that this guy was wrapped up with Mueller and had access to the Clinton email investigation, and then conveniently got himself out of politics, had a pretty big role. Remember, cybersecurity. So we will see, but I'm assuming that is the very senior member that we are talking about there. And of course, we know Lisa Page, who said Vive la Resistance, was speaking to Peter Strzok a lot, and Peter Strzok now has been escorted out of the FBI building, reports the Washington Times. Anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok was escorted out of the Bureau's headquarters Friday, one day after an explosive report by the Justice Department inspector said his behavior had hurt the venerable law agency's reputation for fairness. But Mr. Strzok still appears to be an FBI employee as of Tuesday, according to CNN, which first reported the story. An FBI spokesperson did not immediately return a request for comment from the Washington Times, but Mr. Strzok's attorney, Aiton Goldman, told CNN his client remains a proud FBI agent. Mr. Goldman confirmed in a statement that his client was escorted from the building during the ongoing disciplinary process, which he said was being buffaloed by politicians. Instead of publicly calling for a long-serving FBI agent to be summarily fired, politicians should allow the disciplinary process to play out free from political pressure, he said. Okay, so it would seem to me that they're not quite done with Peter Strzok. Otherwise, I would imagine he would have been fired. It seems to me that they need to keep him in-house for something, but that gives us a little bit of insight as to some of these unknown players that we're discovering in these texts. And before I move on, I want to just play you a little bit. This is Mark Meadows talking to Inspector Horowitz, and I would like you to hear what he has to say.
And what I guess I'm concerned about is, that they don't work for the counterintelligence division.
Well, two of the agents do.
I'm talking about attorneys.
There's one lawyer who's in here, so there are 5 people total.
Right.
Page Strzok, 2 other agents.
But you had a dialogue between FBI Attorney 1 and 2.
Correct.
And those 2 attorneys, do they not work for Trish Anderson?
Those 2 attorneys work in the Office of General Counsel.
Yeah, and so would one of those attorneys be Sally Moyer?
I'm going to defer to what the...
But they don't work in counterintelligence. I mean, if that's the reason the FBI is giving, they're giving you false information because they work for the general counsel.
They were talking...
Is the other one Kevin Kleinsmith?
They were talking...
So it looks like Mr. Meadows revealed a couple more names of a couple of the attorneys, and that is Sally Moyer and Kevin Kleinsmith, and they work for Trish Anderson in the Office of General Counsel. But more importantly, they don't work in counterintelligence, meaning bad intelligence. Bad intelligence. Let's move on. 11:54 Q takes us back to May, this post here. And for those of you who are new to Q, these links were all linked to a bunch of articles that were basically kind of getting out in front of the narrative and trying to debunk Q. And this was right around the time that Roseanne started talking about Q as well. And Q said, coordinated, all for a LARP, attacks will only intensify, ask yourself why. Then Q says, sample, why so much attention? Conspiracy, Q. So it sounds like we're going to get a lot more. We had the video from Saturday Night Live the other day. And now we have this article to the Daily Beast and Vice. This was the Daily Beast article. QAnon, the crazy pro-Trump conspiracy melts down. And then immediately starts in on this. A man armed with a rifle and handgun drove an armored truck to the Hoover Dam last Friday and started blocking traffic. He brought a homemade sign with him that said, release the OIG report. Okay, if you really want to get geeky with it, he was on the Pat Tillman freeway, and of course, Pat Tillman, we all know what kind of happened with Pat Tillman, who was hit with friendly fire, and who knows, that might have been a message from the cabal, especially being by the Hoover Dam, but that's a different thing. What I want to talk about, the fact is that the media is immediately connecting the two events. And of course, look, this man somehow managed to get an armored truck, which, look, I don't have an armored truck. I was not able to get one on Craigslist when I checked. And so I was out of luck. But this guy got one. And he had a rifle and he took it to the Hoover Dam. And then he films himself. And if you saw the video, you kind of see this sort of lackluster, yeah, we want you to release the memo. And we're really not going to take it anymore. We're, what does this thing say? Redacted. I don't know what that means. We don't want the redacted one. Don't give us that one. This guy didn't know what he was talking about. He's not following QAnon. He's not linked with QAnon. This is just some deep state knucklehead plant that got drugged up, wired up, and they stuck him in an armored truck. And then now we haven't heard anything from him. So clearly that must be part of the QAnon conspiracy, right? And then of course we've got this Vice article, a guide to QAnon, the new king of right-wing conspiracy theories. Folks, I do this almost all day, sometimes every day. And you know what? The one thing that I've learned is I don't know nearly as much as I would like to about all this stuff. But Vice popped on the scene, thank God, now by June 13th. And they've got the guide to QAnon. So they know all about it. It's the new king of right-wing conspiracy theories. So immediately, as long as you hear QAnon, you hear right-wing conspiracy theory. George Soros, the Illuminati, and Snow White are all controlling the world, according to a 4chaner who has spawned a legion of super sleuths. How about that? They started on Roseanne Barr, Pizzagate, and then they go on, and here they are. So this is your guide, your comprehensive guide. And the sad thing is that there's going to be people who are genuinely interested in Q, and they're going to pick this up, and they're going to go, "This is what it is." They're not going to get it. They're going to flood it. And they're busting on Lisa Mae Crowley, who does awesome work. Clowns, Great Awakening. So they're clowning us. That's what they're trying to do. Problem is Q keeps stepping up the Q proofs. So we're clowning them right back. So, hey, Vice, hit me up. Sir Patrick Mack, feel free to have me on for an interview. I'll give you the guide to QAnon. Clowns. Let's move on. Now, 1214. This is a response to some Anons that said, I like that JC with an extra P in twat. And of course, they're talking about Twitter equals JPC. Q says, what a coincidence. And here is the board that they're talking off of. And if you can see the upper left side of the board there, the P at the end of PDJT's tweet today is what they're talking about. And that was this right here. I can't think of something more concerning than a law enforcement officer suggesting that they're going to use powers to affect an election. Inspector General Horowitz on what was going on with numerous people regarding my election. A rigged witch hunt. And then we've got he. And I noticed also that we have RWH capitalized as well, too, which makes me wonder if it's going to be a red White House. You tell me what you think. Anyway, but there's our P. Q, you would have saved me about 4 hours yesterday if you had just put that little P right there. If you just put that little P right there, Q, it would have saved me so much time. All right. Q says, what a coincidence. So it looks like that is our guy, Mr. Carlin, and we are moving on. Next post, 18 minutes after the hour of 12. Adding on, Q says, what is this? Would she know? And it takes you to a Twitter link. And we are going to be looking at Miss Sheila Jackson Lee as she asks a very interesting question to Mr. Horowitz.
The Republicans' attempt to undermine the Mueller investigation and as well to fire Attorney General Rosenstein, which they're planning to do on Friday.
Oh, Sheila, how did you know that? That seems strange. I did not know about Rosenstein being fired on Friday. Did you know about that? No, I didn't know about that. I do this every day, and I didn't know about that. Let me check the Q post. Don't see anything about Rosenstein being fired on Friday. Didn't see it in the news. Didn't hear it anywhere. But Sheila seems to know. Well, how would she know? Did somebody tell her? Do we have a leaker? Do we have a leaky pants in the room? It seems that we do. And could it be that the White Hats are letting this disinformation leak out just a little bit, just so people can expose themselves on national TV? What a coincidence. Well, what is this? It looks like counterintelligence, folks. It looks like spy versus spy, and we're watching it all kind of play out. So that's very interesting. And maybe that's the case. Maybe that is why Rosenstein has been kept around for so long. After all, it seems like Rod Rowe has had to go, but we still got 2 more layers to pull off, if my theory is correct. We're moving on. 2:48 a.m. Text A, text B, text C. Okay. Text B missing and takes 4 attempts to recover due to glitch. Text B supplied in IG report. Okay. How can you obtain text A and C, but somehow the most incriminating, text B, is lost due to a glitch, recovered later only after classified intel methods apply? Yeah, that would be weird. You'd think if it was missing, text A, B, and C would be missing. I'm not great at math, but I think I'm following. This is the level of corruption we are dealing with. The American people are not stupid. Yeah, exactly. And folks, I'll leave that link for you to sign the petition to demand the unredacted report. If you have not signed that already, I guess at this point it is kind of out of our hands, but we're watching this play out, and it looks like the deep state is starting to clown themselves through their own line of questioning. Next post comes in at 3:01. We've got this blurry picture of what seems to be the side of President Trump's face. It's entitled iPhone Tweets. Q says, what a wonderful day. And then ain't nobody got time for that. Anon says, come on, Q. Who is it? This is the owl photo all over again. A lot happened today, and Anons are focusing on a damn blurry photo of some old man. End it already. Q says 45 and then sends us this picture. And as you can see, if you turn that to its side, that looks to be our POTUS. And this is entitled iPhone, Twitter, White House. The iPhone. You know, the iPhone that the president likes to tweet with. The iPhone that all the aides are always trying to take away from him in order to replace it with a new one. But he refuses because it's inconvenient. The iPhone that Don't Be Such a Dick Durbin asked about. That iPhone, the one that's got Kim Jong-un on speed dial. They're probably playing League of Legends together now. They're buddies. It's all good. Sounds to me like the president and Q are doing some hardcore level trolling. And for those of you new to Q, you can see that Q is not only close to the president, probably a little too close to maybe need to back up a little bit from the president, but the Q is very, very close to the president. And this is high level deep state trolling, folks. I would call this troll level Space Force. Next post is at 9:23. An Anon posts this, and you won't see it all on this, but I will take you to the tweet. This is from Donald Trump's Twitter, saying, earlier today at FLOTUS, Melania and I were honored to welcome King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia of Spain to the White House. And then we have 17 seconds 7:17 p.m. Q says, what a coincidence. Twitter shot in the oval. And next, a tweet. And of course, those of you who do not know, 17 is a reference to the 17th letter of the alphabet, which is Q. This was posted at 7:17 p.m. Let's take you to that. And there is your tweet right there at 7:17. Now, of course, this says p.m. for me, but if you're Eastern Standard Time, that would have been 7 a.m. And then you can compare it with this picture. And unfortunately, because I'm in a different time zone, I got this at 9:16 a.m. But this would have been 7:16 a.m., just a minute previous to the tweet. And you can see that we've got the Twitter phone and iPhone tweets. And we know that President Trump likes to use 2 iPhones. So there you go. A minute later, we get the tweet, another Q proof. Q adds on to that by saying 1 minute Delta conspiracy. Q. Yeah, you can see that I think Q is ramping up the proofs simply because the attacks are ramping up as well. And I think that the more that people try and attack us and the more vehemently they go after us, Q is only going to clown them even harder. Let's take you to the next post here, 10:01. And we've got this picture of a soldier who has "Where we go one, we go all" on the back of his helmet. And this Anon says, I'd go there even if I had to leave early and walk my ass there, LOL. Q says, thank you for your service. God bless and stay safe. Well, hopefully this Anon does not have to leave early and walk his ass there. Hopefully he can catch himself a bus. And I, myself, am going to catch a bus out of here and enjoy my birthday. Those are your Q posts for today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And for those of you who are new, you will be unliked and unclicked and unsubscribed because YouTube doesn't want you and I to be together. But you know what? We got a special groovy kind of love. Whatever the weather, we will stay together. All right, that's all I got for you. I'm going to get on out. And until next time, this is Sir Patrick. Stay there. Stay right there.